Hello, friend. My name is Asindra, and today I'm going to continue playing for you once on a Windswept Night. I always want to say once upon because I don't know. I guess it's just once upon a whatever is always how it goes. Anyways, not the point. The point is we are here and we are able to stay with both of them because we have played both of their routes. So we're going to do that. Daffodil looks angry. You Philistine! I can't believe you would ask both of us to accompany you. Now, isn't this a good thing, Daffodil? How on earth is this a good thing? It's greedy. It may be rather greedy, but I like it when people know what they want. It makes it easier to tend to their needs. Of course, there is nothing wrong with indecision, but it makes my job harder. You would be thinking about this weirdo? Hey, I resent that. How am I weird? How aren't you weird? You're dripping wet and you still won't take off that stupid hood. It's suspicious. Of course it's suspicious. The traveler pulled their hood even lower down, obscuring their face in obsidian shadow completely. I have a medical condition. Yeah, sure. And pigs can fly. They can in some parts of Praline. Huh? What, really? No, not really. Jerk! Daffodil fumed while Madeline laughed. You should be thankful, Daffodil. This way we can spend more time together. Wouldn't you get lonely if our guest picked one of us over the other? Well, I am happy we can spend more time together, but thankful? That is quite a tall order, Madeline. Well, maybe not thankful, but I think things have worked out rather well. The traveler was also inclined to agree with Madeline. Things had worked out rather well, considering Daffodil seemed to not like them in the slightest. At least the younger nun had not tried to kick them. Yet. Despite being a nun, Daffodil seemed like exactly the kind of person who would kick somebody if she didn't like them. She was rather straightforward about her feelings, and was making no attempt to hide her discontent. What a funny girl. It would have been amusing were the traveler not so concerned about their immediate well-being. The traveler pondered. As before, their eyes rested, as though compelled, upon the withered old tree. They swore they had heard a voice emitting from those branches earlier, but how could that be? Trees could not talk. At least, the trees in Praline did not talk. Maybe it was different in Dequa. The traveler did not rightfully know, having arrived in the country earlier that morning. Maybe it would be better to ask Madeline and Daffodil. Is there anything unusual about that tree? It depends on what you mean by unusual. I suppose it is unusual for there to be a tree growing in the church at all. Growing isn't really the right word. More like dying. I suppose you're right. The tree hasn't borne any fruit for as long as I can remember, and I have lived in this church since I was a baby. You were given to the convent at your birth? Yes. I do not know if my parents wanted me to become a nun or not, but, well, I never had the opportunity to ask them. You wouldn't have being a baby, but didn't your parents tell one of the nuns who took you in? Madeline smiled, a touch of remorse to her expression, and shook her head. That is quite a complex tale, and neither, I fear, a very interesting one. The traveler nodded. They knew when it was impolite to keep prying. Madeline was not the kind of person to directly tell another to stop an unwanted line of questioning, but she would drop hints. It's not very interesting was the biggest hint there was. Now that you mention it, I think the mere existence of this tree is unusual, but I have never questioned it. It has always been here, and the church would feel incomplete without it. Did any of the other nuns tell you about it? Not really. They just said it was old and precious and needed to be cared for, like any visitor to the church, I suppose. But this one is more permanent. That's right. But it has never been a bother. We only need to water it occasionally. I'm surprised it hasn't rotted away yet. Perhaps it is stubborn. It's annoying. I've stubbed my toe on it before. You'd think it'd be all soggy and eaten up by termites, but it hurt like a bitch. Daffodil, don't say such words in church. What, bitch? That's right. Don't be so uncouth, or I'll have to wash your mouth out with soap. But it did hurt like a bitch. I was in agony. All right, Missy, that's enough from you. Kya! Daffodil whimpered, tears beading in the corners of her eyes as Madeline roughly ruffled the top of her head. The traveler smiled, endeared by their closeness, but questions still remained. The traveler rose to their feet. Their cloak fluttered with a slight movement, and both Madeline and Daffodil blinked. Do you want to stretch your legs? Or maybe you finally realize you're not wanted here? Daffodil. Daffodil whimpered. Madeline had just poked her in the tummy. My legs are a bit numb, but I'm not stretching them, and I'm not leaving either. More's the pity. Somebody's grumpy today. Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? You woke me up. I am not a vassal of the goddess who can run on niceness and niceness alone, Madeline. I need to sleep too. I just thought... The traveler's voice cut through the playful bickering of the two nuns. It was low and thoughtful, unusually serious, and was able to silence even Daffodil. I wanted to take a closer look at this tree. I don't get it. Why are you so obsessed with it? I must admit, I am also confused. I have lived with this tree for more than 20 years, and have never noticed anything strange about it. Other than the mere fact of its existence? Other than that, yes. But it is nothing more than a tree. A normal tree. Isn't it? I don't know. That's what I'm trying to divine. The traveler paused by the tree, resting a hand against the bark. It was rough to the touch, and the coolness seemed to drain the warmth from their skin. They shivered. Was this really their imagination? Perhaps it was nothing more than an ordinary tree, but... What do you mean divine? You're not a gypsy, are you? I could be. I thought there was something fishy about you, but it's even worse than I thought. I can't stand people like that. You gypsies are all charlatans. You take advantage of stupid, gullible people to line your purses. What's all this inner eye nonsense? You can't see anything more than we can. Oh, I wouldn't be too sure about that. Huh? What are you talking about? You're making this hypothesis based on the assumption that I am human just like you. But that is not the case. What? You... Daffodil's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Her eyes were wide. She had not even considered the possibility that the traveler might not be human. So what are they? That was the conceit of humans. I think that they're a bunny because earlier there was a joke about, or not a joke, but this, like, they startled when they said something about rabbits. Or an elf, maybe. Because they mentioned their ears a lot. Anyways, that was the conceit of humans. They assumed any creature that walked on two legs and could speak their mother tongue relatively well must have been a human too, even if they couldn't see their face. The travelers supposed it was not an unfair judgment. Humans were the most populous species across Decivir. Other things, like dwarves, goblins, and trolls, only made a scant 10% of the population. Wherever you went, humans dominated. They're like a plague. It had been very much the same in Praline, where the traveler hailed. Humans were everywhere. But the traveler was not a human. The traveler had kept their cloak about their shoulders, the hood over their face, to conceal their true identity, but this was no longer feasible. If they wanted to get to the bottom of this mystery, they needed to use their use of their 5 senses. 5 senses that far outstripped any humans. Do we get to see them? The traveler reached their hands up to their hood, and they did so. As they did so, Daffodil flinched, her eyes narrowed with mistrust. If you are not a human, just what are you? Yes, I am also rather curious. You're not a goblin, are you? I wasn't the last time I looked. Or a dwarf? Am I short enough to be a dwarf? You could be two dwarves sitting on one another's shoulders. The traveler snorted. For a girl who claimed not to believe in ghosts or spirits, or even the religion she was supposed to serve, she could be awfully imaginative. Right. I admit that's not the best idea I've ever had, but still. If you're going to stay in this church and take advantage of our hospitality, you should let us know. It's rude to keep secrets from your saviors. What on earth are you? What on earth are you? It was a question the traveler was not unfamiliar with. They had heard it time and time again before they had the foresight to travel with a cloak. It was like their mother had said, "Humans don't trust us. You can never hope to travel the world without facing discrimination, or worse. Becoming a merchant is folly. You should stay here with us." But the traveler had not listened. They were never one to listen to reason. When the traveler wanted to do something, they followed their heart, no matter where their heart led them. Now, their heart had led them to this church in the middle of nowhere. The rain continued to fall against the stained glass, and the wind outside moaned. But above the hum of the weather, the traveler swore they could hear a voice. "Me. Please. Help me. Listen, please." It was such a humble request, spoken in such piteous tones, the traveler could not ignore it. This was a voice that had been ignored for years upon years, centuries perhaps, because humans could not hear no matter how hard they tried. They had not been born with the knack. Creatures like the traveler, however, were different. They could listen. That was why they had been born with such long, long ears. Ah! You're a cutie pie. And they are a bunny. Ah! And you got a little tail. That's cute. And see, the aphrodisiacs are in pouches. So, yeah. Okay, cool. Because I was wondering about how they carried their merchandise around. Anyway, ears that the traveler now exposed as they slowly undid their rain-soaked cape and let it fall to the ground. They're not particularly long, I guess. I don't believe it. A leopard. Leoparde? A bunny! The nuns' voices were hushed with shock. Daffodil's was tinged with mistrust, as was her wont, but Madeline's sounded almost reverent. The traveler turned her head slowly, hands held together at her front. Ooh, it does work. Yes. I pressed the wrong button, don't worry about it. I pressed H and then I pressed Y, and I was like, why isn't Y working? Anyway, the traveler turned her head slowly, hands held together at her front. The white, fluffy ears that protruded from the top of her head twitched. So this was her true identity. A bunny girl. Or bunny, to use the correct term. Truth be told, the traveler did not look too different in appearance from Daffodil or Madeline. They were all bipedal organisms with similar bone structures. They had the same features, too. Arms, legs, a mouth, a nose, eyes, and ears. But the eyes and ears of a bunny were special. Anyone in Daqua, nay, the whole of Desservir, could have told you that much. I never thought I would see a bunny in the flesh. I thought you all lived underground. I did live underground, but I hated it. It was so dark and musty, and I got tired of eating mushrooms and nettles. Yes, I imagined that would be quite a pain. Madeline seemed in awe of her guest, but Daffodil was significantly less pleased. Daffodil glared at the traveler while taking special care not to look directly into her eyes. You should probably leave. Daffodil, how could you say something like that? She is an honored guest. That was before we knew she was a bunny. Bunny can't be honored guest, Madeline. And why not? What's wrong with her? They can hypnotize people. But she looks so cute and fluffy. I want to touch her tail. That's all part of their ruse. They might look cute, but they're anything but. They can use their eyes to plant all kinds of suggestions in people's heads. But I'm sure she wouldn't do a thing like that. If she wanted to hypnotize us, she could have done so earlier. It's the principle of the thing. As the daughter of a merchant, I can't accept this. Don't you know how dangerous this species is to human traders? My father told me stories. He said crooks worked along bunnies to swindle inexperienced merchants. With their eyes, bunnies can make people do all kinds of stupid things they would never normally do. It was a bunny, it was one of her kind, that tricked my father out of his fortune. The traveler bowed her head. Something inside her chest twisted. Even if that was true, it was hardly her fault. She was not responsible for the misdemeanors of her entire species. But Daffodil did not seem to see it like that. Oh, so you don't have anything to say for yourself, do you? Daffodil, please. No, Madeline, don't please me. I won't let you talk me down, not this time. How can you expect me to sit here nicely, smiling like the perfect hostess with this creature in front of me? Creature, was it? It was better than monster, but only by a slim margin. It still hurt. This was why the traveler had not wanted to remove her cloak. Humans did not trust bunnies, but maybe her species had brought it upon themselves. There was a reason why they were renowned as the race of tricksters and scam artists. Everything Daffodil had said was true. Perhaps it was because they lived underground in subterranean cities beneath the earth, but all bunnies were born with extraordinary eyes. Their eyes were able to see through the darkness as though it were nothing, but they could see even more than that. They could even see the shapes of human hearts. With their pale pink eyes, bunnies could mesmerize susceptible beings easily. The traveler herself could do it with minimal effort. After all, she had spent her childhood enchanting moles and foxes. A human was not that much more complicated. Bunnies were largely disliked by most of the population. The prejudice was so strong they rarely left their underground homes to interact with the outside world. The traveler was an exception, and she always traveled with her face hidden. That was less suspicious than being exposed as a bunny. The traveler could understand Daffodil's dislike perfectly. It was not the first time this had happened to her, and she had grown accustomed to it. But that did not mean it did not hurt. It did. The traveler could hypnotize humans, but she never would have. As a merchant herself, she had too much pride in the quality of her products to resort to such dirty tactics, and it would not be worth the result and fallout. She would get caught and thrown in prison, or worse, executed, quicker than the blinking. But the traveler had more important issues to worry about right now. The tree, right?